In a recent video, I discussed the Dunning-Kruger effect, and by the end of that video, I gave a couple of examples on how to use the Dunning-Kruger effect purposefully instead of how it's often used, mockingly. By the way, thanks a lot for the surprising amount of love and comments you shared with me since that video. Your support means a lot to me. Super happy to have you here. Anyway, I know some of you were interested in assessing where you are in this Dunning-Kruger zone, a term that I just came up with, by the way. So I'm adding more detail to that information. Let's talk about a model you can use to understand your skill level, set goals, and keep learning. I'm talking about the 4 Stages of Competence model. Also known as the learning stages, the model was introduced in the 1960s and later developed by Noel Birch from Gordon Training International, in case someone was curious. According to this model, we go through 4 stages when we learn a new skill. It's often represented as a triangle or in a box format. Today, I prefer the box representation. The model suggests that individuals progress through stages from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. To understand these stages, it can help, I think, to visualize a skill that you want to master or that you have already mastered. For this purpose, let's take communication as an example. At the first stage, you're unconsciously incompetent. You're unaware of the knowledge you have in that skill or your thought processes, so-called metacognition. At this stage, since you have little or no understanding of the skill, you may even reject this value. So a friend has invited you to present at an online event and you have no practice on communication or presentation, because after all, what new can there be to learn anyway? Oh boy, you're at stage 1, my friend. You're unconsciously incompetent. Once you reach the second step, you're consciously incompetent. You still lack the necessary practice and knowledge, but now you realize your incompetence and you realize the value of that skill. In other words, your metacognition has increased and you know that or what you don't know. So to go back to the communication example, after bombing during your presentation, just kidding, after presenting at your friend's online event and maybe watching other people present as well, you realize that maybe you need some practice after all. Then you reach the third stage. You're consciously competent and understand the skill-specific details. This stage requires focus and concentration, and since the trajectory between stage 2 and stage 3 is reversible, you risk falling back to stage 2 if you don't practice enough. So now you know you have something good going on. You know your stuff. But now practice becomes critical. To not reverse back to stage 2, you should find any type of opportunities to communicate, to present. For example, work seminars, podcasts, YouTube channel. Keep going and push yourself to reach the black belt level stage. You practice consistently and now you know how to perform the skill without much effort. It's second nature now. At this stage, you can perform a task in parallel with another task, provided you're competent in the other parallel task. For example, now you can interact with your audience while you present or eat an apple, for example. Don't do that. Anyway, those are the 4 stages of competence. And now you ask, how are these related with the Dunning-Kruger effect? Remember, the Dunning-Kruger effect tells us that incompetent people overestimate their abilities, while the most competent people underestimate them. Can we draw parallels between the 4 stages of competence model and the Dunning-Kruger effect? Well, not really. I'm sorry to disappoint you. But if we try to draw a loose analogy between these two, with an emphasis on loose, then we could say that stage 1 might align with the lowest category of the Dunning-Kruger effect graph, where the person is incompetent but unaware of it. Stages 2 and 3 are a little bit more challenging to place and probably overlap, but they may occupy any part of the middle of the Dunning-Kruger effect graph. Then finally, it's probably fair to say that stage 4 represents the higher category of the Dunning-Kruger effect after the lines cross. I don't know. Do you agree? Also note that I'm not an expert in comparing these two. I'm probably completely lost in the Dunning-Kruger zone or the second stage of the 4-stage competence model. And there's probably a psychologist somewhere listening to this, banging the head against the wall. In any case, just knowing about these two models, even in isolation, can liberate us from this punishing mentality that we adopt sometimes when we feel that we lack competence or lack knowledge. For example, the fact that we recognize our ignorance may help push us to keep going. Anyway, I wanted to share this with you because I think that many people would benefit from such insight, especially in these times when people want to be part of the discussion, but few have the patience to learn. Some structure in the chaos, right? Until next time, peace.